The soul selects her own society.
Then shuts the door.
To her divine majority.
Present no more.
Unmoved, she notes the chariots, pausing.
At her low gate.
Unmoved, an emperor be kneeling.
Upon her mat.
I've known her from an ample nation.
Choose one.
Then close the valves of her attention.
Like stone.
The graveyard where Emily Dickinson is buried can be seen from the place where her childhood home once was. Her gravestone is covered with notes, rocks, feathers, a facsimile of First Folio Antony and Cleopatra, a rubber duck. The notes have begun to spill off and fall down the back onto the ground behind it. The graveyard is quiet. I'm alone, but for a man sitting in his car, and the ghosts, I guess. Emily was known as a ghost by the people of Amherst well before she passed away in May of 1886. Wearing exclusively white and rarely leaving the house will do that. Look up literary recluses, and you will find lists dominated by Salinger and Proust. Often, Emily stands out as the only poet, the only woman. When Emily was 15, she wrote that the world holds a predominant place in my affections. She also loved books, birds, and her garden. The question of what she loved is much more apparent than that of who. When discussing reclusive writers, there tends to be almost a need to paint them as a lonely writer as well. While Emily may have been a lonely woman, it is equally probable that she was content to be unmarried, writing, reading, tending her garden. She kept up years of rich correspondence with a number of close friends, among them her brother's wife, Susan Gilbert, radical literary critic Thomas Wentworth Higginson, and local newspaper editor Samuel Bowles. These letters form much of our conception of Emily as a person, not a poet. Reading them feels almost intrusive, as if the woman who rarely left her house is in the room with you, is watching you. Considering that she only ever intentionally published one poem of the nearly 1,800 she wrote, it is difficult not to feel her eyes on you. And despite this, we continue to read. We continue to remember. My question is, should we remember her as the lonely recluse, unable to fit in her time? Or do we think of her alone in her flower bed, covered in dirt, content, coaxing the flowers to grow?